Y'all get to see all the sides. You can see spine, red, flat out. Which they want. Across the room. Because the white here, and there, I can't see you that way.
Well, before we get started here, it is my understanding that today is Eli Hannah's birthday. Eli's birthday, right? Number 2. And so before we start, I think we ought to have a rousing round of happy birthday for Eli today. All right? So I'm not going to ask Lamar to come back up here and lead us, so I will try to do my best in my froggy throat. So, all right, so we're going to sing happy birthday to Eli. Y'all ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Eli. Happy birthday to you. Yay. Happy birthday, buddy. How does it feel to be 2? Feel good? Yeah. Okay, well, as we bring ourselves back together here, we're going to pick up where we left off last week in 1 Samuel chapter 19. 1 Samuel chapter 19. We're going to be looking at verses 8 to 12 tonight. Now, there was a question, I don't know, a month or so ago that I've been kind of pondering, I've been thinking on, and I'm not going to say that our message tonight is directly in response to that question. The question was, how do we address bullies and bullying? That's an issue that our kids face in schools, and so I'm not going to say that tonight is in response to that, but I think we do find some wisdom that would apply in this area of bullies and bullying. It's been part and parcel of the student experience from time immemorial. That those that are strong, I don't think it's right, but it is part of what we have to deal with. So the question that lies ahead of us or in front of us tonight from this text is it wise to run from a fight? Is it wise to run from a fight? Now, as a man, as a Southern man, and as a Southern man of Scottish heritage, I'm having trouble with this one, right? It was said of me when I first came to this church that I wouldn't back up from a fight. I never got in a fight since I've been here, but what was said of me by some of the people that had observed some things is we, at certain intervals, this is just church life, in certain intervals you start a Sunday morning service, a Sunday evening service, a Wednesday service, and just random people off the street just walk right in, right? And the funny thing, the reason why I think this was said, is that happened one Sunday night. We had 3 young gentlemen show up in the church for a Sunday evening service. They had obviously been partaking for most of the afternoon. And they came in and sat down on the back row of the church as service was about to start. And so I went back to greet them and to tell them hello, and I'm Pastor Rusty, and we're glad you're here. And the 3 of them decided that they wanted to unpack all of the world's problems right then. And so I visited with them for just a moment, and they just kept asking me, well, what about this, and what about this, and what do you think about this, and what's the church's view on that? And I finally just told them, I said, look, guys, you guys are welcome to be here. We want you to stay, but you see all these other 3 or 4 people up front here? They're waiting for service, want me to answer. And there's a couple of people that were around heard me say that, and I think it really caught them, not off guard, but I think there was a sense in which they were thinking that the pastor is not going to shy away from difficult questions. Of course, I think I have demonstrated that over the years. I'm not going to shy away from difficult questions. I'm not even going to shy away from made-up questions, right? I'm going to answer questions. And so all of that to say, for a long time, I kind of wore that as a badge of honor because I heard them. I heard them talking to each other. Pastor Rusty doesn't back up from anything. And I wore that as a badge of honor. But you know, the reality is that was pretty prideful for me to think that way. There are times in which we are to fight, and then there are times in which we are not to fight. And as we'll see here in a moment on my second point, that it's God who determines our actions. It's God who determines, do we go or do we stay? Do we charge forward or do we stand back? And so whether we fight or not is not our call. It's God's call. Now, in everyday kind of occurrences, bullying, school, where people want to fight, maybe at work where people want to fight, I would say that we probably need to remove ourselves from those circumstances as frequently as they may come up, because those are not intended necessarily for God's glory. Those are intended for somebody else's prideful glory, right? And that's really what fighting does, is it gives us a sense of accomplishment where we're glorified and Christ is not. And that's not what we're to be doing. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go, but the question that is before us is it wise to run from a fight? So 1 Samuel chapter 19, verses 8 to 12, and you're going to find out as we go through here, David was not afraid of a fight. He wasn't afraid of a fight. He just realized that this was not what God had intended him to do. So we're going to draw wisdom out of that. Verse 8, and there was war again, and David went out and he fought with the Philistines, and he struck them with a great blow, so that they fled before him. Now, I want y'all to notice that this is the first occurrence of somebody fleeing from a fight. Now, it's at the hands of David, got it, but in these 4 verses or so, there are 3 occurrences of somebody fleeing a fight. That's important. That tells us something. As a matter of fact, it's the phrase that closes out each one of the individual sections. So David struck the Philistines with a great blow, and they fled before him. Then a harmful spirit, verse 9, from the Lord came upon Saul again, and he sat in his house with his spear in his hand, and David was playing the lyre again, and Saul sought to pin David to the wall with the spear, but he eluded Saul, so that he struck the spear into the wall, or stuck the spear into the wall, and David fled and escaped that night. Verse 11.